Good morning and afternoon, everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing Michael Fricano II, who'll be presenting Revolutionize the Research Process with Google Drive. Michael is a technology integration specialist, an authorized Google education trainer, and has been teaching and providing Google Apps training for students and teachers for more than 5 years. Michael enjoys interacting and connecting with like-minded individuals through social media and co-hosts the Google Plus Live Hangout EdTech Mixplate. He is also the president-elect for the Hawaii Society for Technology and Education and co-founder of EdCamp Honolulu and the EdChat Hawaii Twitter chat for Hawaii educators. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Michael.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And I just have to give you a shout out because you were named School Librarian Journal's Librarian of the Year last year. I just wanted to shout that out. Thanks for introducing me. We have a great librarian amongst us. And
hey,
Michelle's going to be, yeah, no problem. You're welcome. Michelle's going to be moderating our Q&A via the EDU on Air site. So if you guys want to jump over there, I know many of you RSVP'd via the Google Plus event, but we're not going to use the Hangout Q&A. We're going to be using the Q&A via the EDU site. So if you jump over there, click on the Watch Live Now, and then you can participate in the Q&A while I conduct my presentation. Okay, so feel free to do that. Appreciate any questions. We'll try to get to them as often as we can during the broadcast, and if we can't, I'll have the opportunity to answer your questions after the session today. Okay, if you checked out my presentation materials on the website, then you'll have received a document that takes you to my presentation resource site, and it looks like this. To get there, just go to bit.ly/easyresearch, and that'll take you to this site, which has my Google slide presentation that I'll be showing you guys today, as well as a whole slew of links and resources that I'll be talking about a little later as well. So feel free to check that out, bookmark it. It'll be there after today for as long as Google lives. It'll be on the web. And there's some links there. You can email me or connect with me on social media, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or help in that way as well. So feel free to check that out. And let's jump into my presentation. So hopefully you're in the right place. This is Revolutionize the Research Process with Google Drive. This is one of my most favorite presentations to give. I give a handful of different presentations throughout the year, and I've presented on this several times over the past year or so. And it's always my favorite because I love Google Drive. I love what it can do. Some really powerful tools embedded into Drive. And they can specifically assist teachers and students with the research process. And there's the link again, bit.ly/easyresearch. Okay, so of course, as a teacher, we have to have a solid understanding of what that research process is. Right? What do we need to teach our students in order for them to have a solid understanding of the process, so that they hit every mark, they gather all of the resources in the appropriate ways and in the appropriate formats. And what I have here is a process chart that was originally created by Mary Beth Hertz, and she gave me permission to recreate this for the purpose of my presentation. I really appreciate that. So shout out to Mary Beth. And it comes from an Edutopia article that she wrote a couple years ago about the research process. And this is what she typically teaches her students when they dive into the research process. So of course they explore the question, what is research? Why do we do it? What's so important about it? They talk about topics, keywords, and search terms. That's very important when you're using the web to search for research, to search for resources. How do we test those search terms? Some terms, some keywords might get us to the place we need to be a lot faster and a lot quicker than other search terms. And so testing those out and determining what works and what doesn't can be really powerful for the process. How do we take notes? How do we gather that information into a format that's easy for us to understand as we're using that research for a project or a paper or some kind of report? Why is copyright and plagiarism so important? How do we evaluate cites? And I'm kind of working backwards here. And then in the end, how do we create those citations? Why are citations important? And how do we synthesize information, and how do we share those results with other people afterwards? So I found this to be a really great process. It really lays out all the important pieces of the research process. And throughout my presentation, I'm going to be referring back to these all these individual pieces. And I'm going to try and hit every one with a tool or a feature in Drive that can help with the process. Okay, so what are the research tools in Google Drive that we're going to talk about? Well, first is the research tool. Most of you may be familiar with the research tool. In my opinion, it's the most powerful tool in Google Drive, and we'll talk a lot about that. And if you don't, hopefully you'll learn some pretty cool things, some pretty cool ways that you can use it in your classroom. I'm going to share a couple of really great add-ons, some Google Docs add-ons. We'll talk about those and how they fit into the process. I have a bonus Chrome extension that I'm going to share with you. And then, as teachers, we may already be using the comment tool to give students feedback, but I found a rather unique way of having students use the comment tool for their own benefit. So I'm going to show you how that works. And then, of course, there's the awesome revision history that allows teachers to check back in time on student work through Google Drive. So we'll talk about that as well. Okay, so first up, of course, I want this to be as much of a hands-on session as possible. So if you want to open up your own Google Doc and follow along with me as I'm introducing you to a variety of tools and features, you can play around with them yourself as I'm talking about it. I do have a disclaimer. Most of the tools, if not all of the tools and features that I'm going to share with you in this session, can only be accessed via the web-based version of Drive. So if you have a tablet, like an iPad or an Android tablet, add-ons aren't available, Chrome extensions aren't available. So most of these, and the research tool isn't available via on mobile devices. So most of these things you're not going to be able to do on a mobile device, unfortunately. Hopefully we see that coming in the future. But for now, it has to be done via a computer on the web. So just so you understand that and you know that, hopefully you have access, your students have access to computers at school and they're not just using tablets, because some things are great on computers and some things are great on tablets, and having an option is great too. So if you want to follow along, you can get hands-on, open up a new Google Doc, and let's get started. So first up is the research tool. Okay, and the research tool, and I'm going to jump into a Google Doc in a second, so I'll actually demonstrate all these things. But the research tool is great for addressing your topic, keywords and search terms, and testing those search terms, because the research tool is essentially Google search built into your Google document. And the research tool is also available in Google Slides as well, but it doesn't offer the same kind of options that it does in Docs. And what the research tool, so it lets you search Google, but it also allows you to filter your results. And if you're in my presentation and you click this link will take you to a description of all of these different filters that you're able to choose from. So let me jump into a doc and I'll demo what the research tool looks like. So I'm going to zoom in here so you guys can see it a little better. So to access the research tool, it's via the tools menu here, and it's right under spelling. It's the second option in the list, called research. Okay, so if you open that up, it opens up a side panel on the right side of your document. And again, it's essentially Google search built into your document. So your students don't have to leave their document to conduct a Google search as they're conducting their research. Okay, so I could type in a search term, let's say Christopher Columbus. I'm researching European explorers. Okay, and the result I'm using now is just the everything result. So it's going to show me it's going to show me images. It's going to pull, depending on what I'm searching for. In this case, it's a person. It's going to show me some basic information about that person, as well as a paragraph of information. And I believe this info is being pulled from the Wikipedia article. Okay, so just so you're aware of that. And then below that are the web results. And so here we have different websites that match my search terms. And when you hover over a website, you get this box. and you get these three options here. We'll talk about these options in just a second. Okay, but there are other filters. If you're just searching for images, you can click on the image filter, and you'll just find images here. So it's just gonna, I can scroll on and on forever and ever. If I hover over a picture, it'll pop it out so I can see it better. Now, what can I do with these images? Well, if I like an image and I want to use it in my research, I can simply click it, drag it in, and drop it, and it's going to place it where my cursor was on the page. And there, that picture's coming in a little small, it's okay. But you'll notice here, there's a little footnote next to the image, and that was automatically created when I dragged in the picture. And that footnote, that number, matches the footnote at the bottom of the page. So you notice that what the research tool did was it automatically pulled the direct URL, the direct link to that image from the site that it came from. So it's essentially citing that source for me as I'm gathering my images. And if I dragged in another one, it'll just continue with the next footnote number 2. And if I go to the bottom, there's my new image URL. Okay, so that makes it really easy. Right? We talk about, we try to teach students to cite their sources, make sure they know where everything's coming from, have the direct links, understand where it's from, and the research tool does that for us. Right, and it's all right here at the bottom. Okay, now you can filter images. Some of you may be asking, are these images free to use? Are they copyright protected? Right now, by default, it's just Google's just giving me any image you can find on the web, whether it's copyright protected or whether it's set free to use. Google isn't filtering that right now, but you do have the option to do that via the research tool. So if you click this drop-down arrow here below the search box, there's an option to filter image results by usage rights. And again, right now, by default, it's not being filtered. But if I want my students to only find images that are free to use, share, or modify, I can change that option. It's going to update my search results. And now I only have pictures that I'm free to use and modify. Okay, now it significantly reduces the amount of pictures I have access to. Okay, but if we want to teach our students the proper ways of borrowing resources and conducting research, this would be one of those appropriate ways, right? Filtering our images. Okay, and some other filters.
Sorry, before
yes,
you go on, there's just a few questions. One of the early questions back to what devices support Chrome extensions and add-ons. Somebody's wondering if a Chromebook does support that.
Oh, yes, of course. It's because this is web-based. You can access Chrome extensions, add-ons with any computer that can access the internet through your browser. Well, and of course, you should use the Chrome browser because if Chrome extensions require the Chrome browser.
I wanted to ask
but as long as you have a browser. Yeah.
There's another question where somebody was asking, can I use the Safari browser on an iOS device? And I think you just answered that. Better to use the Chrome browser when you're using Apple products. Is that right? Chrome browser?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would recommend
There's another question still.
Sure.
Someone was wondering about the reliability of Wikipedia, that their students go straight there and copy and paste points into their document without even reading it. And I have definite opinions
That's a good
about
question.
this.
Yeah. That's a question. Yeah. That question always comes up every time I present this, and it's a valid question. I mean, there are some schools that don't even allow students to use Wikipedia. In my opinion, Wikipedia can be a great resource, a starting point. But I always teach my students, and I tell teachers, that they shouldn't be using just Wikipedia. They should have multiple sources, separate sources from different places, so that they can compare their results, determine, if they're factual or false, or how true they are. Students may find different results on different different websites, and if that's the case, they have to continue their hunt for information. And a lot of Wikipedia is just a curation tool. It's a collaborative space to gather information, but that information is just coming from other sources. So if you visit a Wikipedia page and you but they shouldn't A, be solely relying on Wikipedia, and B, Wikipedia should not be their primary source of information. I don't mind students using it, but it shouldn't be their only place, and they should be able to back up what Wikipedia says with other more reliable sources.
I totally agree. And
answers
here,
your
a really good way to handle that too is to ask kids to, part of the assignment might be to find multiple resources and what does each say about this topic. Sorry, Catherine had a follow-up question to using Safari. Really, her question was, can you access the research tools in Safari when you're using a Mac device? And you can access the research tool, Mike, right?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can because the research is just built into docs on the web, so it shouldn't matter what browser you use. You should still be able to access the research tool. I've just found that things work better in Chrome because Chrome is Google's browser and Google Docs is Google's apps. You know, so if you're using that combination, you have a much better you have more success with it, I think. But yeah, you can access the research tool and the add-ons via Safari. Okay, let's move on. So there are a couple more filters. You can search scholarly work on Google. If you're looking for quotes by a particular person or about a person, you can do that. There's a built-in dictionary. If teachers or students have access to Google+, you can even search your personal contacts for information. And if you're looking for tables of data, you can even search that as well. Okay? I'm not going to get into those for this particular presentation, but feel free to explore those at a later time. Those are really good options depending on what it is you're looking for. I'm going to jump back over to everything. Okay. So talked about the filter and just some things to consider. I'm going to keep coming back to these things to consider throughout my presentation. But when you're having kids conduct research using the research tool and they're looking at all these web results, a couple of things that you should be discussing with your students are, what are all these domain names of sites mean? So when I say domain names, it's those 3 letters at the end of a website. So for example, .com or .org. .gov, .edu. It's important that students understand what all those mean, and by understanding what those mean, students might have a better understanding of what's more reliable and what's least reliable. Of course, a .gov is a governmental, it's the government. .edu is an educational institution, mainly universities and colleges. .org is an organization. So understanding what those mean can be very helpful for students. And I have a link here that takes you to a web page that describes all the different kinds of domain names and what they're, how you can get one and what they mean, what their purposes are. Hey, what are some effective Google search strategies? So there's some tips and tricks to searching in Google, and if you employ those tricks, you can really narrow down your results and really focus in on those pieces of information that you're looking for. So if you access that link, there's some really handy tips there. And of course, what are the keywords associated with your topic? And that gets back to, back to that research process and determining, what are keywords, what are search terms, what combination of words can I use to help me find the information I need? And if kids understand what those keywords are, and if they brainstorm a list of search terms before they begin, that might help them to really focus in on their topic. I'm going to show you a really cool add-on that can help with that a little later. Okay, continuing the research tool. There's another tool built in that allows students to evaluate sites within the research tool, and that's the preview option. So the preview allows you to get a sneak peek of a website before you even actually visit it. So let me show you what that looks like. So if I jump down to web results, and if you remember earlier, I said if you hover over a result, you get this box with these 3 links. And the first one is the preview. So before I even visit that site by clicking on the blue link there, I can get a sneak peek of this site without even leaving my document. That can be very helpful when evaluating. So if I click on preview, it's going to slide open a side panel. It's going to show me what this entire page looks like, or most of it at least. And so this is the Wikipedia article. Lots of text, lots of paragraphs of information, a couple of images, maybe a side panel with some details. Again, if you allow your students to use Wikipedia as one source, this may be a fairly good place to start. Just by looking at it, I can see there's lots of information. There's no ads, it's not selling me anything. So using that preview tool can really help with the evaluation. Now, I can't read any of this because it's too small. That's not the purpose of the preview tool, it's just to get a sneak peek. If I move on to the next one, Okay, here's one. It's got a really big picture, a small paragraph of information. I see some ads on the side. Ads can be dangerous. We can ignore them, but they can be tricky too, so we have to be careful of those. And then I can move on to the next one. So the preview tool can be very powerful. Here's a video. Maybe I'm not looking for videos just yet, so I can skip over that. So the preview tool can be very helpful. And when I was using the research tool with some students for one particular project, one of my students came up with a really unique and creative way of using the preview tool. So if you notice, when I use the preview, there's this red bar along the side of this web result. This is telling me that I'm previewing this website. And when students were conducting research and they were scrolling through all of this list of different web results, they would visit a site. Okay? They would spend maybe 10, 15 minutes on the site. And when they would come back to the research tool, they would forget which one they clicked on because there's so many in the list. And that was becoming a problem for students. So one student came up with the idea of using the preview tool. So if the student wanted to visit this history.com website, he would turn on preview, go visit that website. He would collect and gather his information. And when he came back to his document, he would be able to remember which one he visited because the preview tool is marking it for him. I thought that was a really creative and different way of using the preview tool that allowed students to keep track as they're conducting their research, because that can get tricky over time as they're continuing in the process. So that's a really great way of using the preview tool as well.
Hey, Mike, before you go on,
Yeah.
Can I just share a couple more questions?
Sure.
Krista suggested a really good site that I know Liz and Olivia and my daughter, discovered kind of accidentally. It's called allaboutexplorers.com, and it gives information like Christopher Columbus was born in Sydney, Australia in 1951.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I pasted her link in the chat, and could you later maybe add it to resources that educators can use?
Definitely. I was actually, there's a really cool Chrome extension I'm going to share. And when I use it, it's going to find that site for me. So I was actually going to jump on that. Oh, great.
So she's ahead of us.
It's a really good, that's okay. It's okay. It's a really good source for showing kids fake information, but it looks very
And then there's another question, and sorry, I should have interrupted you earlier. The question was, when you're searching in this tool, the research tool, is there a way that you can actually get results in another language? So is there a way to set your search for another language, or is it only English results?
No, I think it depends on how you use the search search bar. I think there's a tip, and it may be via my maybe in this search strategies, but there is a way to in the search box to switch it to search other countries. And when you search other countries, it's gonna, of course, those search results will be in that particular, the language of that country, the primary language. There's something you have to do at the beginning. I can't remember what it is, but there's something you put at the beginning of the search term to switch it to another country.
Okay, and then actually you said too that if we missed any of the questions in here, you're going to go back through it later and you will post answers to folks' questions. And then Mike, can't you actually even choose a different like Chrome browser? Like, mine is set for United States, but at one time it was set for Sydney when I was there. Can you choose different? Yeah, you can change the country too. Okay, and then
depending on what country you choose.
One more question since I interrupted you. Mike is wondering if you can do Boolean searches, with the limiters or you can.
Yeah, that's what sorry, I'm jumping around my screen here, but that's what this link here, my presentation, these search strategies, these will introduce you to Boolean searches, which you can use in the research tool. Yeah, so you can subtract out specific search terms, you can search through a specific site. So if you jump to this link here in my presentation, this will take you to a list of those Boolean searches. Yeah, definitely. Cool, good questions. All right, so jump in ahead second. So the preview tool, so just some things to consider. Some questions to ask your students. How do you know that this is a reliable source? What kinds of things can you look for as you're evaluating your sites via the preview tool? Is the site trying to sell me something? Some sites will, like history.com is a great resource, but they try to sell you a lot of their video content, right? So you have to be careful of that. Does it contain enough images and information? So just by getting that sneak peek, you can quickly determine, is there enough information, enough images on this page that I can use in my research? And how many other sources do I have? We kind of talked about that earlier. So having multiple sources and comparing those sources can really strengthen your research. So just some things to consider for your students. So continuing on, there's the insert link tool. There's the insert link option. So that's right next to the preview. Let me close the preview here. Okay, so if this is a site that I want to consider using later on in my research, I want to be able to jump back to it quickly, there's a really handy insert link button here. And it's going to drop a link into your document wherever your cursor is. Right? So if I move my cursor down a little bit and then insert the link, it's going to take the name of that page and then turn it into a clickable link for me. So now by inserting the link, your students have an easy way to get back to that source later on rather than having to search for it again, which can be very time consuming. So the insert link is very simple, but very, very handy to use. Okay, and of course, there's the Cite tool, probably one of the most powerful pieces here, right? So if there's a site that I'm pulling information from, okay, and I need to be able to cite my sources, I have to create those citations for my project. There is a very handy Cite tool here, and so when I click it, it's going to create another footnote. And there's number 3 because my pictures were 1 and 2. And that footnote matches a complete citation from that website right here. Okay, so I mean, it's just a click of a button and you get a complete citation. Google is doing all of that work for you. As some of you may ask, can you change the format of that citation? And you definitely can. So if you click that drop down again, remember we were here for filtering image results? Well, below that is the option to change the citation format. By default, it's set to MLA, but you also have the option to change it to APA and Chicago, right? So if I wanted APA and I want to cite this one here, so here's MLA, right? And then number 4 is in APA format. So you can change the citation format there via this drop-down menu. Okay, it's a really powerful tool there. I'm going to show you a Google Docs add-on that also creates the citations for you, but does a little more of the work for your students. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, so some things to consider. Are students gathering too much unnecessary information? So when they're copying and pasting information into their doc, are they just getting what they need, or are they just grabbing an entire page, right? And they may think that they're doing themselves a lot of good by grabbing all that information, but they still have to be able to synthesize it and organize it later on. And if they're grabbing too much, that can be detrimental to their research. Do they have multiple sources? Do they have a way back to the source? That's the insert link. Are they citing every source that they're pulling information from? Okay, that's the Cite tool. Do they know why citations are important? There's some really great links there. One in particular, I believe is, no, it's not this one, sorry. If you click on the word important, yeah, this is a great one by languages.org. It's kind of small for you guys to see, but you can zoom in on your own end. It's an infographic that talks about copyright and Creative Commons and all those different options we have in determining why or how we can use stuff on the web. So it's a great infographic. And do they know proper citation formats? So if you're asking for MLA, why MLA over APA over Chicago, right? And there's different formats. Every teacher has their own preference, and it's important that students understand why those formats. Do you have a question, Michelle?
Yeah, so 2 questions. One is Adala's wondering, can you also add in-text citations? So you know how in Google, I think he means this, in Google the citations are added at the bottom of the doc, but is there a way that it's inserted, I guess, right in your text? I mean, is that
I don't know. I don't think there's an easy way in docs, and you can't. This is just for the research tool, right? So you can't change where the research tool is putting the citation. It always creates that footnote and puts it at the bottom for you.
At the bottom.
That's why, because I'm in this example, it's for conducting research. So of course, when they after they gather their research and they're creating their project or the report, they would probably want it in some other format via maybe a works cited page or a bibliography of some type, or
Right.
you can insert it within the text. So these citations can easily be highlighted, copied, and pasted into whatever final document or file they're using.
Right. Okay. And then another question from Seth. He's wondering if the citation tool will cite specific pages from a website.
It depends on. It's only citing the page that it's finding within the research box here. So you can't. I guess if you search a specific site, yeah, I don't think there's not really an easy way to cite a particular page within a site. It's going to cite whatever page or website it finds via the search box. And then
Seth was also wondering if we can access this presentation from your EdTechnocation website.
Yep. So it's if you go to that link, bit.ly/easyresearch, right here. So if you jump to this link here, this will take you to my research site. It's a good question for those of you that maybe join a little later. My entire presentation is right here on the left side. And I'm currently on slide 7, if you guys want to jump in.
Okay, and then Jennifer's wondering, instead of making a footnote, is there a way within the research tool to create a works cited page?
Not in the research tool, but there's an add-on that I'm going to show you in just a minute that will create that works cited page for you. So we'll get to that in just a second. That's a great question. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so that pretty much sums up the research tool. Feel free to explore that. It's a great tool. Probably, again, in my opinion, the most powerful tool, I think, in the Drive arsenal. And it can be extremely helpful for students and teachers. Let's move on to some add-ons. Oh, I snuck in an add-on there. But so there's a couple of add-ons I want to show you. There's 3, actually. Keywords is one of them. We'll get to that last. And add-ons they're like mini tools or gadgets that are built into your docs that add some extra features to your docs. And there's also add-ons for spreadsheets as well, but I'm going to focus on docs. And add-ons were released last year back in March, and since then there have been some really great add-ons added to the list. So I'm going to take you through 3 of them. So the first one is the EasyBib Bibliography Creator. So many of you, your schools might purchase EasyBib Pro for your students, or you might have your students go directly to the EasyBib website to create citations. But EasyBib made it a little easier for us by creating an add-on that gives us access to EasyBib within our document without even having to leave our document. We can have EasyBib create those citations. So via your doc, there's an add-ons menu here next to help. Okay, and I have a long list of add-ons already. You may have some or none, depending on how often you use add-ons. But if you want to add a new one, zoom out here a little bit. You go to the bottom where it says Get Add-ons. That's going to open up the add-ons menu. And you can scroll through and look, but you want to find EasyBib. You can search for it as well by typing in the search box. And this is the add-on I'm going to talk about. EasyBib Bibliography Creator. You click the blue button to add it to your list of add-ons. It's going to ask for permission to access your certain aspects of your account. All of these add-ons have been vetted. They're safe to use, and they're most of them for educational purposes. So it's safe to add it. And then I already have it added, so I'm going to show you how this works. So if I go back to add-ons, you'll see EasyBib in the list. And I had the option to manage or create a bibliography. Okay, I've already kind of set one up here to save some time for us. So here, just like the research tool pops up on the right side, so do these add-ons. And so here's the EasyBib add-on. And this add-on allows us to create citations for books, journal articles, or websites. So if your students use a book, they can type in the title or the ISBN number, or a keyword or a direct link to a journal article or a website. In my case, I have a website URL. Okay, and let me just grab an example here. If I have that direct URL, I can just paste it into the box and search. Okay, so this may be a good, this add-on might be good to use after they conduct research. So if they have these links in their document, they can easily pull the URLs from those links if they want to use it, if they want to cite those sources. So here, it's found this link here, okay? And if it's the correct one, I can select it, and it's going to get added into my bibliography, which remains on the side here. So I have a couple already added here, 3. Okay, so without putting these citations into my document like the research tool does, I can keep it on the side until I'm ready to use it. But what I love about this add-on is once I've gathered my citations, it will add a bibliography to my document. So it's going to create the works cited page, format it correctly, and insert it into my document. So if I click that red button, and again, I can change the format. And of course, EasyBib has a lot more options in terms of formats. And you have your basic ones. Okay, but if I add bibliography to doc, in a minute to process. There we go. So here, it's generated my bibliography. Here's my 3 citations formatted correctly in MLA format. Okay, and then I can move that down to the last page if I needed to. Okay, so this is a really great tool for quickly generating that works cited or that bibliography that you need for your project.
And Mike,
and this can easily be copied and pasted somewhere else. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, just to interject really quick. Earlier in the Q&A, one of our listeners, Mike, had said he recommends to his students that they use both print and electronic, that they you know, find things online, but then compare the results in books. And I just wanted to point out, really awesome that EasyBib allows students to click on book and submit the title of the book, and it will also pull up that citation for them here to add easily into the bibliography.
Yes. Yeah. Now, the EasyBib add-on allows you only access to these 3 options. I think the EasyBib website, if you do Pro, you have a lot more choices, or just by going to the EasyBib website. So this is just like a slimmed down version of it. But yeah, I mean, it can be extremely powerful and useful, and makes it really easy to generate those citations in that bibliography page for their project. So that's the EasyBib Bibliography Creator, and I have it linked here if you want to easily find it. Okay, the other add-on I wanted to show you is Text Help Study Skills. Okay, so this is a really great one for synthesizing and gathering information. So if I go back to my doc, go back to add-ons, and again, if you want to get that add-on, just go to Get Add-ons and search for Text Help, and you'll find out it's called. It should look something like this: highlighting tools. Okay, and so we find it here. Here, Text Help Study Skills, and the option is to show the highlighting tools. So if I do that, let me. Sorry, I need to go find some information first. Let me do that. Oops.
And Mike, while you're searching, Bobby has a question. She said, so if we copy the bibliography, will it keep the format for our research paper? And it kind of seems it does, right? You can select the format and it inserts it in that format you chose, MLA, APA.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
and then
definitely.
Seth was wondering if you can manually edit footnotes or bibliography entries.
Manually insert footnotes.
Edit them. So, you know, like once you've brought it over from EasyBib, are you able to go into the Google Doc itself where your bibliography is and make some changes?
Yeah, you can create footnotes here. So via the insert menu, there's the option to insert footnotes.
And so you know how EasyBib generated the bibliography? I'm kind of thinking he means if I wanted to change something there, can I change it? So like, could I click? Yeah, there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just inserting the text for you. So if you needed to manually edit or change something, you could.
And I want to let you know that Tara says this is great. I'm going to show my students on Monday. So there.
Ooh, awesome. Thanks. Okay, so let's get to the Text Help Study Skills. I had to pull in some text so I could show you how this works. So Text Help Study Skills, show highlighting tools. Okay, so Text Help is the company that does Text Help. There's a Chrome extension that you can purchase that has a bunch of different features. Like one of the features of the Chrome extension is the highlighting tools. They have a whole slew of other features built into that extension. So text help highlighting tools is it's a 30-day trial that's demonstrating one of the tools that they have in their extension, just so you're aware. And if you notice here, in the add-on, there's 4 highlighting colors, but on mine, 3 of them are grayed out. That's because my 30-day trial has ended, and so I only have access to yellow. So if you're using this for the first time, you may have access to the 4 colors, but after 30 days, you will lose 3 of them. But even though you lose 3 of them, the yellow is still, it's still pretty helpful. But what the add-on does with your highlighting is also really powerful. I'm going to show you how that works. So I only have access to yellow. Okay. So here I have some text. I've pulled it in, and I can use text help highlighting tools to highlight the different important pieces of my my text. So if I'm skimming through, I can see he's an Italian explorer, navigator, citizen of Genoa. Okay, under the Ashes Catholic monarchs of Spain. I'm just going to highlight some different key terms and words. Completed 4 voyages. Whoops. Okay, so highlight. So you see I'm highlighting and then clicking the highlight yellow button. Established permanent settlements on the islands of Hispaniola. So I'm just going to do that one. Okay, so I can continue doing this for as long as I need. I'll stop there. So I have 4 things highlighted. Okay, now that's pretty simple. I mean, we could do that without this add-on. But once you're done highlighting, the add-on has an option to collect your selected text together to view in a single document. This is a really cool feature. So once I'm done highlighting, I can collect highlights. Okay, this box will pop up. Excuse me. And it gives me 2 options. I can sort the highlights by their position in the document. So anything at the top of the document will be first, and so on. And if I had access to the 4 colors, I could also sort it by those colors. So it'll put all the yellows together, all the blues together, all the greens, and so on. I'm going to keep it in document position, and I'm going to have it collect highlights. And give that a second to run. Okay, now it says your highlights document has been created. Click here to open. So what it did is it pulled all of my highlighted pieces out of my research document here into a separate document and gather them up there. So if I click here, okay, so here it is. So from all that information I gathered, it's only going to show me everything I highlighted, what I deemed important for my research. So that can be really great for synthesizing and gathering that information. Okay, so now I don't have to worry about all that extra stuff that was in there. Okay, it's all gathered in this one document. Then I have an easy way back to my original. Okay, so super powerful. I mean, just that saves a lot of time for students when they have to do all this, but all of that extra stuff is still in there. This add-on is a great way to quickly pull all that information together. Okay, so that's the text help highlighting tools. And I'm going to show you a little hack that I learned about this. Now, although I lose these 3 colors here, I can still access them because all they're doing is connecting to the highlighting colors via the color tool up here. So if you match up the right color, like I'll just do this, and I highlight it in neon blue here, and then grab this and highlight it in neon pink, right? I can still collect these by their color, and it should still work. So even though they are technically taking those 3 colors away from you, you can still use them by using the regular color palette in the edit toolbar and see if it works. Yeah, see, so I pulled it in there. That's just a little trick. Probably shouldn't be showing you this because it breaks their trial, but it still works. And why not take advantage of it? Okay, so that's the text help highlighting tools add-on. Okay, I'm on time. 15 minutes. Okay, the last one, this last add-on I just found a couple days ago, and I thought it was a pretty cool add-on that could be used for research, and it's called keywords. I don't remember seeing this a while ago, so it must be fairly new. But the add-on's called keywords, and let me get it set up here. So what keywords does is it allows the teacher to create a spreadsheet of keywords associated with their research topic, and then you can give your students access to that list, and that list will be available in the side panel. So I've already created a keyword list here, so we're going to view it. Okay, so I've created a keyword list called European Explorers History. Okay, and when you use the add-on to set it up, what it does is it automatically creates a spreadsheet, plugs those keywords into the spreadsheet, and it also creates a column for description, which I, as the teacher, could type in the description here, or you could have your students type in the description. You just give your students access via the share permissions, right? And then they could add in their own descriptions as they're conducting their research. They can learn about these keywords and come up with definitions and explanations of them. But as a student, I can access my teacher's list here, click on it, and it's going to load those words from the spreadsheet into the side panel. So here, I have a list of keywords that my teacher has generated for me, which I could then use to find that information I need in my research. So, you know, words like settlements and voyages and new world, explorer, early life, you know, those key words that I need to remember throughout my research. I have a list here that I can access. It's pretty handy. It's called keywords. Yeah.
Hey, Mike, you've made a lot of people's days. They're so excited with this. But an important question from Emily. She's wondering if the students have to each go in and add these add-ons, or is there a way for her school's IT department to add the add-ons for all students?
Yes, there is a way. If you talk to your IT department, there should be what's called a Google Apps administrator, and they do have the ability to push add-ons out to teachers and students, so that you don't have to worry about your students doing this. So yeah, that is an option. It takes a little work on the administrator's end, but also I think it's important that students know the process of adding their own add-ons. It doesn't take that long to do. Maybe the first 2 or 3 minutes of class, they could quickly add these add-ons into their list. And once you get an add-on, it's always in the list for any document that you create. So you don't have to keep adding it to every new document. It will always be in this list for you.
And Mike, I learned from Kern Kelly, who's a really great Googler, to send it back out to your students and ask them what add-ons would help you with research. So it's a good process for them to think critically too. And like you said, definitely, the add-ons have been vetted, so it's pretty safe for the kids to go in there and make their choices. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, so that's another really great add-on. I just added that on a couple of days ago. It's called Keywords. So feel free to check that out. I have the links for those here. Okay. All right, next is a bonus Chrome extension. So I learned about this Chrome extension from Kelly Fitzgerald, who runs the GAF chat on Twitter. And she introduced this on her blog one day. And I thought it was a really great tool for students to use as they're conducting research. Now, this Chrome extension, it's not for Google Docs. Okay? It's meant for if you're in the regular Google search and you're conducting searches there. This tool, it's called Web of Trust. And what it does is it allows for safe browsing. So let me show you how this works. Open up a new tab. So I already have the extension added. If you want to add it, I have a link in my presentation and on the website to the extension. This is only accessible via Chrome. Okay, and if I search for Christopher Columbus again, oops, I spelled that wrong. Okay, so what WOT, or Web of Trust, does is it creates these little circles and it puts it next to every search result. And so what we have here, if I hover over one, it's going to show me the trustworthiness and the child safety rating of this site. And the way they're determining this is based on user feedback, right? So as a user of WOT, I can also rate these websites myself, which will then help the rating system for other users as well. So, for example, this one, Wikipedia, it's been rated very trustworthy. It's green, it's very child safe, and it's considered a good site, and it contains opinions, religion, and politics. Okay, and if I click on this to view details,
it'll take me to the WOT site, and here I have a much deeper, I have much more, a lot more information to use, right? So it's giving me the ratings. I could rate the site myself. How much do I trust it? How suitable is this for children? I could pick categories for different these different sections here, and then I can leave a comment about this site, and I can also read other users' comments. Let me jump back. So wait, let me try this again. Sorry. View the details, and here. So here, other people have already provided feedback and comments on this Wikipedia site, and so I could go through these. Most of them trust it. This guy here says it's suspicious, and you might explain why. Right? So this is very helpful in evaluating sites because a lot of people have already done the evaluating for me. I just have to take the time to read through it to determine this guy says he doesn't trust it. Okay? And as a student and as a teacher, I can also help in the rating of these websites. Right? So this is WOT. And I wanted to show you, earlier somebody mentioned there's a great site here. So earlier, Michelle, you mentioned somebody who talked about a site that gives false information. And this is the site she was talking about. And you notice it's yellow as opposed to green, right? It's not very many people mark it as trustworthy. And if I click on it, you'll understand why. It looks very official, very fancy, lots of information. But Christopher Columbus was born in Sydney, Australia. His home was on the sea. He was very interested in finding sailing routes around Africa to China, Japan, and India. So what this site is actually, it's a false site. It's meant to give false information to test students during their research. And so WOT has kind of done some of the work for me by marking it as not very trustworthy. So this is, again, this is WOT. It's called Web of Trust, and it's a Chrome extension that you can use as you're conducting regular Google searches. Okay, so pretty awesome option there. Pretty cool Chrome extension. Okay, I've just got a couple minutes left, so I just want to talk about the comment tool. So if you're a user of Google Docs and other Google files like slides and sheets and all that, you may be familiar with the comment tool. Okay, the comment tool allows you and your collaborators to insert comments into the document. But I found a rather unique and different way of using the comments in research. So in this case, if a student's conducting their research, they can comment on themselves to help them track and monitor their own research. And so as an example here, when I was having students conduct research for an endangered species of Hawaii, they had to look for particular pieces of information, like what did they eat? What habitat did they like to live in? Why are they endangered? And so the student would highlight a piece of text, insert a comment, and mark it as what kind of information was it. Okay? And I have an example here. So this is an example of a student who conducted some research and then used the comment tool to track their own research. Rather than the teacher using comments for feedback, the students were commenting on themselves in order to organize their research. Let me see here. So there we go. So here, right, so this comment is attached to this paragraph, and it talks about diet. And then she goes on and says the diet is insects underneath all the bark. And then she goes on and says this is very useful. So she's plotting her course along the way, and she's organizing her thinking and her research by commenting on herself. So that was a very different way of using the comment tool for students. And feel free to access that example if you want to take a look. Okay, of course, it's also great for teachers, for teacher tracking and monitoring students. So I could go into that student's document, view her comments to figure out if she's really synthesizing the information correctly, if she's really able to organize and determine what's important. And it's also good for student-to-student dialogue because you can have a conversation within a comment. So if you have a group of students collaborating together on a research project, they could use the comment tool to organize themselves. Okay, then there's the revision history. Okay, revision history is great. It's perfect for student and teacher monitoring and for undoing mistakes. And it's really great for the teacher because you can see how how often the student conducted their research and when they did it. If it's meant for homework, you can see if they're actually doing it during after school, or if they're rushing it first thing in the morning before they come back to school. So it's great for teachers to keep track. And if you're doing a group project and students are making mistakes, it's really easy to jump back to an earlier period in time and undo those mistakes. Okay, I do have some templates and examples. So when I first started conducting research in Drive, I was having the kids just create a blank document, and then they were just dragging in images, copy pasting information, and it really became very chaotic and messy and cluttered. It would look something like this, with footnotes and links everywhere and different formatted text from different websites, and it just got very confusing for students. So this was like my first kind of my beta test of the research tool. And the kids really liked the research tool, but the way they were organizing information wasn't very helpful. So what I had them do, or what I did, was I created a research template. Okay, and this allowed them to keep their research a lot more organized. And these are some examples of that template that I employed for them. So I made a copy for the students, or they made a copy themselves. Okay, and so here they would have their topic, their name, what they needed to find, what their criteria was for conducting their research, what they needed to do, what they needed to meet. And then this is how I had them organized. So I created a table where they would copy paste information from one website, put their citation in this box using the Cite tool, and also insert a link with the insert link option into this box. So much cleaner, much more organized. It's a lot easier for students to tell what they need to do, what's required of them, right? Just by keeping it organized into this table. And then same for images. I think I have images down here. Yeah, so I created a handy pictures table where they had to drag in their images into that box as well and make sure they included their citation there. Okay, so this made it made it a lot easier for students to keep their research organized. So I do have that research template for my audience members out there, for my viewers. Feel free to make a copy of it. You can tweak it, you can change it to whatever suits you and your students' needs. Oops, I'm sorry. So feel free to, I'm like jumping around here. Feel free to make a copy of that and steal it and use it for your own. I definitely don't mind. But it was very helpful for me and my students, and I feel like it might be helpful for you and your students as well. So just jumping back, just wanted to reiterate the research process. I think I've hit most of these different steps along the way via a Google Drive add-on, a Google Docs add-on, or a Chrome extension, or the research tool. All those things combined can make the research process a lot easier to manage for you and your students. You can streamline a lot of the steps, make the process a lot more efficient, and hopefully, as many of you have mentioned already, you'll be able to take back some of these things on Monday and get your students started with them. So that's the end of my presentation. If you guys have any questions or comments, you can plug them into the Q&A via the EDU on-air site. Shoot me an email at michael.fricano.ii@gmail.com. I love getting emails. I'm more than happy to answer and help out anyone in need. And connect with me on social media. I have a Google Plus account there. You can click the links. Follow me on Twitter at EdTechNocation. And if you guys wouldn't mind giving me some feedback for today's session, so if you go to bit.ly/1feedbacksurvey, I'd really appreciate your feedback. And any comments or questions you had, you can plug them into the feedback survey as well. But with that, I'm at the 9 o'clock mark. I really appreciate everybody joining me today, choosing my session over all the other great ones that are out there. This will be recorded for future viewing, so feel free to check that out. And again, you can visit my site at bit.ly/easyresearch, and it'll be up there after today with all the links and resources. And I'd just like to give a special thanks to Michelle for moderating the Q&A. I really appreciate your help, Michelle. We are up bright and early at 7:30 here in Hawaii, so I really appreciate that in the Saturday morning. And a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. All right, thanks everyone. I'm going to end the broadcast. Have a great day.